Hello, welcome to Oracle tutorial videos, and hopefully you have been enjoying the videos, and please feel free to post questions in the comment section in wherever you are watching this video. So today we are going to take a few more examples of table creation. So I think this is our third video on the tables and rows section. So if you haven't gone through the other one, please go through them. So in the last video we talked about different column data types and etc. etc. So today I'm going to walk you through to logging into real database and then show you how to create tables and what are the things involved. So here we have a table as I was telling you, our department table, where we have the columns, department, description, location, and as you see I've defined them as string data type, which is virture2, and then these are standard syntax. So 60 byte. So when you say 60, Oracle actually internally does 60 bytes. So you can put byte, or it doesn't matter if you put. Then we have the first column is ID, which is a number column, and we say this is primary key. What that means is primary key for is that it has to be an unique number for every record. So I repeat, it has to be an unique number for every record. So and you cannot have null in the primary key. And we have an enable clause, so we can disable it. I mean, if you want to, you can create a key and keep it disabled for some time, but otherwise you can just, by default it is enabled. So if you don't mention it, by default it is enabled. So then other thing what you see here is something called not null. What that means is that you're telling that my department name cannot have null values, means cannot have space, or I mean can have space but cannot have null values. Whereas this one, if you don't define anything, it can be null, or it cannot, or you can enter value, or you can even skip it. So that's called, it's essentially called whether a column is nullable or not. So let's create the table. So before we create, it sometimes helps to have a drop table command, which that means is that you drop the table if it exists. So here, as you see here here it says drop table statement processed. By the way, what you are seeing here, this is Oracle SQL Developer tool, and we have logged into our database test3, and it's a nice tool. If you're especially working in Oracle, you can download it from Oracle website. So let's create the department table. So it has created department. So now if we do a select star from department, which is basically a way to query the table, and as you see here in our window, it has given this, but it doesn't have any rows. So let's create some rows. So this is a syntax for creating rows, department values, and then you are entering some rows. So there is another syntax where if you can put all the columns in which you enter, like this ID, department name. So if you're entering all the values of all the columns, then you may not have to mention it. So by default, then it assumes that this ID department name is just like the way the table has been created. But if you don't mention it, it assumes that all the columns which you are entering here, it follows the order which has this order, and also you are entering for everything. So let's create these rows. Okay, so we have just created a row, and then if you do the department search, as you see, it has our record here. So now let's try to play with it a little bit. So as we said, that let's try to validate our primary key. So primary key, as you have heard, that it has to be unique for every row. Now in this particular case, I'm entering the same row, so I'm expecting some problem. Okay, as you see here, it is giving unique constraint violation. So now let's look at the message carefully. it's saying an error occurred while performing the request, which is correct. Which you are trying to insert, it gave an error. It says Aura 001. So Oracle internally has code for every error. So the unique constant error is associated with this number 0001. If you have a different error, like say if you're trying to put if you're trying to put a null value in a not null column, you may have a different error number. And then interestingly, it has something test.3sys hyphen it's some number. What that means, what that is that when you put a limitation or a condition on a table, so this condition where we are saying primary key is the ID, so this is sort of a condition which in Oracle says it is a constraint in its database language or database terms. So every table can have lots, different types of constraint, and it can have multiple constraints. And when you put this primary key, Oracle internally create a constraint, name it as sys something, and then when you are trying to validate, it gives that reference. So you can see that constraint. So let's say if you go to our department table, here as you see, it has this gives different column names. So these are the column names we got. We got data, which is this, and then it has constraints. So it internally created this constraint. When you define primary, you can put this name. Okay, let's go back here. So we have validated. So now if you enter 2, it will probably go fine. Okay. So now other thing is that we have defined department name is not null. So let's see if we try to enter null here. So as you see, I have entering a null for department. So again, we have similar thing. As you see, we have a different number 1400. So this is a Oracle's code for null violation error. So it cannot insert null. So at the same time, you see I have entered null for department location. So if you don't define anything, by default it is null. So you can define column as null like that, or if we don't mention anything, by default it is null. So let's put XYZ. Let's put 3. So we have created 3 records in our department database. So as you see, there are 3 records. Now let's talk about the employee table. So again, we had the similar thing. By the way, Oracle is case insensitive. So that means you can create a uppercase or lowercase, but Oracle would always ignore that. So that means you can drop table with, so it says table doesn't exist. That's fine. So we are going to create one. So depending on the tool you use, so let's say if you we are creating EMP table here, but as you see here, it will show up as the uppercase. And you can put a double quote or may not put a double quote. So the department table also a similar thing. Only thing is that it has something extra. Look at here. Here it says constraint FK department ID foreign key department blah blah blah. What does that mean? Now if you remember in our second video on the tables, we were talking about that storing department ID in the EMP table as a way to join with a department table so that we can get some rows from the department table. So to join that, by doing this, what you are saying is that the department ID, this is the department ID in EMP table, refers to the ID of department table. So what that means is that you cannot have a department ID which does not exist in the department table. So that's what basically, and the syntax is constant. So because this is a constant, because it is a condition to a table, and condition is that you cannot insert rows which follows this thing. So foreign key department ID. So that means my department ID is a foreign key. It refers to the department table of the ID column. Now in a typical case, in a foreign key relation, typically a table refers to another primary key of another table. So in our particular case, now it doesn't have to be, but just to repeat, let's see what I've said. So department ID is a foreign key in an employee table. It refers to ID column in department table. Now in most of the cases, this ID column happen usually is a primary key of the table which it refers to. Now, you see I removed test3 because it's not needed. So let's go ahead and create this table. Okay, so we just now created. So in the next video we'll talk more on these tables.